Meanwhile, in a classroom in Texas,
what are you doing?
I'm eating my pudding.
Did you have your meat?
No, I haven't had it yet.
If you don't have your meat, you can't have any pudding.
youth is wasted on the young, so don't let someone take yours away.
Welcome to Let's Get To, the baseball show from the fan's perspective. Let's Get To presents the first pitch. Opening thoughts from James Christopher.
And welcome back to Let's Get To. I'm your host, James Christopher. And, this is another one of those old man yells at cloud kind of openings. And some of you probably hate that. And by all means, move on to the really cool interview we have later on with the Charleston Dirty Birds. Some of you might think it's funny because what's funnier than a guy losing his grip on reality? But I'm still caught up in this lack of ability that we have to let people like things, to let people enjoy things. I don't understand why we as a human species take joy out of removing joy from someone else. I'll actually never understand it, and I'll continue to try to work through that kind of issue or question about it. And this comes from, a good friend of our show and a podcast you should be listening to, the Dad Hat Chronicles. I think it was him, posted something about bringing a mitt to a ballpark. And as often happens, it starts a ripple effect of people weighing in on that. And I've seen it happen in person where people sort of mock the concept of an adult bringing a baseball mitt, a baseball glove to a game. And I, for the life of me, don't understand why. I usually have a mitt with me. Now, sometimes it's in my equipment bag, and by the time I've gotten through shooting and stuff like that, I just don't take it out. But usually there's one within my grasp. And so it's one thing to decide, hey, I don't want to bring a mitt. It's another thing to say I want to bring a mitt. What I don't understand is the mocking for people that do. I look at it this way. Generally, when you see a dad with a mitt, it's because he's a dad with a mitt and he's got a kid with him. And what a baseball mitt at a baseball game says to me when someone brings their glove? To me, it's hope. To me, it's possibility. To me, it's we could get a ball. We could get that rarest of baseball souvenirs. The thing that took me until my early 40s to actually get one legitimately, a foul ball. And so why wouldn't we want to have that? Why wouldn't we want that kid, think about when you were a little boy or a little girl and you're walking up and you're holding your dad or your mom's hand and you see the stadium come up to you in the foreground, right? When you would go to the Astrodome when I was growing up, it was like that. It was like coming over off the freeway and then you see this just big, monstrous, magical place of possibility. And my grandfather was a mitt guy. And I don't know if he just did it because he had me or whatever, but he had his glove every single game. My grandfather, who fought in World War II, had his glove at every game. And I remember having this moment of thinking, like, we're going to get a ball. Because if he wouldn't have brought his mitt if we weren't going to get a ball. Why take that away from someone? Why? If my buddy Ed wants to take his mitt when he's taking his daughter to his first Indians game, a team that he loves and a team that he's going to pass that joy on to, and now she's going to think anything's possible in this stadium, in this ballpark, why take it away? And who hurt you so much that you feel the need to take it away? I don't get it. I'll never get it. And I remember one of my favorite movies is The Crow. And for as much as the movies that I made were very, very similar to sort of John Hughes movies or Cameron Crowe movies, you know, they were about angsty guys trying to wrap around his head around his own feelings. I don't know that I ever would have made a movie if I hadn't seen The Crow. And 1994, senior in high school, went to see the movie, blown away by the movie, and then went immediately back to see it again. Like ditched friends because something in me said I need to absorb this again. And it was this like combination of art design and music and their performance, and just the tone was something that I hadn't really seen before. But there is a moment in that movie that stuck with me, and it's where Dollar Bill's character is like, hey, I remember my dad gave me this snow. It was a snow globe with a cemetery. And he said, my dad told me that childhood is over the minute you realize that you're going to die. And that's depressing and true. And it brings me back to the baseball glove situation at a ballpark, because we start taking away those things that make us children at heart, that make us innocent, that make us, in some ways, the best form of ourselves when we were full of nothing but possibility. We start taking that away. What are we left with? And what's the point? So you want to bring your glove to the ballpark because you think you're going to catch a foul ball, and for a second you can be 6 years old and think that that's a thing that happens to everyone. Do it. Do it. Do it. If you are a Yankee fan and you want to put a name on the back of your jersey because, the Yankees have had a lot of good players, not all those numbers are retired, and you wanted to know that it was that guy that you're wearing, do it. Who cares what other people think? I've seen people mock Astros fans because, they don't have a lot of money and the jerseys are expensive, so they buy the knockoff ones from China that are just like a little bit off. I mean, I've got one right here, right there. Why? Because you know what? That stuff's expensive. People don't have the money they used to have, and for what they want to do is feel again like a kid. Like life can be whatever we want it to be, and you don't have to be weighed down by your financial situation at that moment. And so why make a point? And I've seen it happen where they call them out in person. Why? What if we just decided to let people do their thing? And I think that we would be a lot happier now. And I think part of, we're in a spiral of hate, we're in a spiral of nasty, and we are in a spiral of just awfulness. And I really wish we could get to a point where we could just let people like things in the best possible way and understand that my grievance with you liking something I don't like isn't worth me dragging you down, and it's more my issue. So anyway, we do have a great show for you today. We're going to be talking to the Charleston Dirty Birds about their brand new rebrand that they really threw at us, and I love everything about it. I do want to do a shout out to Eric Mertens, Eric the Peanut Guy. There are a few people on this planet that talking to them always puts you in a better mood. So I appreciate everything that you're doing. Like I said, great show. Stay with us.
Who's on first? The Let's Get To Local 9, brought to you by Zoomer Sport.
So we are super excited to be welcomed on Let's Get To Mr. Chuck Domino, member of the front office for the Charleston Dirty Birds. Chuck, how's it going, man?
It's going great, Jim. Wrapping up our first season in Charleston with a big home win yesterday, walk-off home run in the bottom of the ninth in our last home game, and trying to go into the playoffs with a little momentum.
Yeah, here's hoping you get there. I know you said your magic number is to the point where you can start counting it on one hand, and that's always a special place to be in baseball.
Yeah, correct.
Let's talk a little bit about you before we kind of jump into the rebrand that accompanied the move to the Atlantic League. I'm presuming you grew up as a kid, loved baseball. How do you end up as a member of a front office for a professional baseball team? How did that go from 12 years old to now?
Okay, well, it's good that you mentioned 12 years old, because that's about the time I started following the Pittsburgh Pirates growing up in Pittsburgh. My first game ever there was at Old Forbes Field in 1969 against the Montreal Expos, the first year the Montreal Expos were in existence. And I was a year later. I was at the last game ever played, a doubleheader against the Cubs at Forbes Field, and I was at the first game at Three Rivers Stadium in Pittsburgh, like 10 days later. So I've been a Pittsburgh Pirate fan my whole life. The first 20 years weren't bad.
Yeah. I mean, no kidding. Yeah.
Yeah. The last 30 have been a little rough, but nevertheless, I'm still a Pittsburgh Pirate fan. I broke into minor league baseball as an intern with the Oklahoma City 89ers after my sports management degree at Biscayne College, now called St. Thomas University in Miami, Florida. I graduated in December of 82 and went right to the Oklahoma City 89ers as an intern. And once you're in the business and you're in the small circle, you hear about other jobs, and that winding road took me through Idaho and Oregon. And like 3 years after my internship, I was the general manager of the Reading Phillies, and for many, many years. And since then, I was the president of the Lehigh Valley Iron Pigs, the Richmond Flying Squirrels. And then I started my own minor league baseball consulting business while still having some full-time positions with teams like Richmond and Reading. And I just got to travel a lot of the country and saw a lot of ballparks and a lot of operations, helped where I could. And after COVID, kind of shut a lot of people down. And then this opportunity presented itself in Charleston, West Virginia, with the West Virginia Power, which is a good segue into what we're going to talk about. But all these years of minor league baseball, be honest, Jim, I didn't even know the West Virginia Power played in Charleston. I didn't really pay attention to the difference between the West Virginia Black Bears and the West Virginia Power. And I knew one of them played in Charleston. I knew one of them played in Morgantown, but I could never get them straight.
Right.
And when I got a call from Andy Shea, the owner of the Lexington Legends, which I was doing some consulting with for the last several years, he asked me what I would feel about helping him out with a franchise he was going to buy in Charleston, West Virginia. I said, well, I've never been there, so let me go to Charleston and check it out. And I came to the town, and I primarily the first thing you always want to do is look at the ballpark.
Right.
And if the ballpark is decent, then you look a little further into the town. But the ballpark I was pleasantly surprised at the condition of the ballpark, where it was located, and it had a nice little feel to it. I said, let's continue the discussion. But I knew if I took the job, I knew almost immediately that I would change the name.
Okay, so let's talk about that, because it was also not just a name change. You also had the league change. And what drove then just the desire to change the name, and how did you come up with the Dirty Birds, which I love that, but I also want to go into also there's a life cycle for these things, right? Like there's always an initial reaction to the brand, and it usually is very polarized, right? Love it or hate it. And then invariably, just ask the Amarillo Sod Poodles, people end up becoming in love with it as time goes on. So how has that whole experience gone for you guys?
Well, Jim, I've done this several times. I did it initially with the Iron Pigs in Lehigh Valley, then the Flying Squirrels, then the Yard Goats in Hartford, Trash Pandas. I was working with them when I was in a committee, if you will, to choose that name. The Rubber Ducks in Akron. So I've been hands-on in a lot of these logo changes, and they are name changes, and they're never popular when you run a contest, because just do the math. If you have 6,000 entries and you go down to a top 10, immediately 5,990 people think you made a mistake because you didn't pick their name. And then you go from 10 down to the winner, and then you just added 9 more people to those 5,990.
Right.
And so people, so you're going to have a lot of those people are going to be vocal about why their name was better than your name, and your name was a mistake, and it's the worst name in the world, and they're never going to come to a game, and it's an embarrassment to live in a city with a baseball team with that name. And then shortly thereafter, they're buying the merchandise, they're wearing the pig snouts, and it always invariably it happens that way. Almost every all the people that really hate it, they kind of exhaust themselves with hating it. And usually what we do is we give about a 3-week, on most cases, we give 3 weeks before we release the logo after the name. And then once they see the logo, everything usually comes together for them. Now, we did it a little different here because we wanted to do it mid-season. We wanted to do it before the season ended. First time to my knowledge, that anybody has ever done it while the season was going on. And I just wanted to get the momentum going into the off season, take advantage of the last few games of the season for merchandise sales at the ballpark, have everything ready for the Christmas season, and ride that momentum through. So we didn't really do a name the team contest. It was more of a guess the name of the team contest. Myself and Andy Shea discussed a few different names 5 months ago, and I came up with this name because, doing a little research on West Virginia, we came up. It was a small committee of people, myself, the owner, Mary Nixon, our vice president, and we, thinking about different, they already had the Mountaineers, you already had the Black Bears.
Right.
You maybe start thinking about the hills of West Virginia and, what's up in those mountains? What animal can we go with? I've always been kind of an animal guy for these logos. Mary actually mentioned the canary in the coal mines. And that's okay. What can we do? I didn't want to be canaries,
Right.
It was too soft.
And
not
there's
enough
already
fun.
you already have Sioux Falls as the Canaries already.
Right.
You don't want that brand confusion.
Right. So it was a little too generic. So just throwing around the Dirty Birds is what came up next. Canaries got dirty in the coal mines. And we wrote a nice narrative for that. And the people, we introduced the team on the field last Tuesday on the second game of the doubleheader. And the narrative explained why we decided, why the canary was a dirty bird and why he was a hero to the industry of the coal mines in West Virginia, and in this state capital of West Virginia, we should be celebrating this, brave little creature. So all of that and then introducing the logo at the same exact time, it immediately resonated with all the people in the ballpark, and then the media attention we got afterwards all kind of supported the narrative, and it just all came together. And it's been a good move so far, knock on wood. I think it's gonna. We are already seeing a lot of young kids wearing Dirty Bird stuff. The West Virginia Power did not resonate with the younger generation of fans.
Well, I know that you just sold $70 worth of gear to Austin, Texas, so it'll be shipped to me very soon. I like to do that when I'm interviewing a guys buy gear while you're doing that. It's always fun for me. Talk a little bit real quick about just then moving into the Atlantic League. What's that been like for you guys? I'm a big fan of the Atlantic League in general. So how has that gone this first year?
Well, it has been an eye-opening experience. I'll tell you, being in affiliate baseball previous to this for 38 years and not really having to deal with the players hands-on as much because the major league team took care of all that. But Mary Nixon in the office, she handles more of the players' end of things, payroll and workers' comp issues and things like that. So it comes with a heavy load of paperwork that
Right.
I didn't know it existed. But outside of that, getting to know the players better. When you're in affiliated baseball, they're the employees of the major league team. So you really don't feel as though you get to know them as much, and you don't have as vested an interest in how they're performing as much as you do in the Atlantic League. At least I didn't, and I do now. I found myself, Jim, following the team on the road with more interest than I ever did before in affiliated baseball, and I like it. I think probably for the reasons you like it, and the players are so passionate, and they play for the love of the game. And they're in Charleston, West Virginia, because they chose to be in Charleston, West Virginia. They weren't assigned here by a major league club.
Right.
And these guys are competitive. I tell you, we've had a couple. I'm not going to mention any names, but we've had a couple players leave the team this year because they felt they weren't playing enough. They don't get paid a whole lot of money anywhere in minor league baseball, including independent league. And a lot of these guys, they know that their days trying to get to the major leagues are behind them, but they are just as competitive as any baseball player in any league in this country. And I didn't expect that. I didn't know what I really expected. I thought maybe guys were here playing out the string just because they just didn't want to move on to their real life's work quite yet. But that's not the case. They're playing baseball, living every day, trying to win every day. And whether they have dreams of ever getting back to Major League Baseball or not, they want to go out on a high note for their baseball career.
That's well said. And I think, the other thing is like you mentioned before, you mentioned you guys want to win. It isn't just developing for the home club. And if we win, it's nice. You guys are actually out there to win a championship.
Oh yeah. We don't have pitch counts. If there is a pitch count, it's only because you're trying to save the guy's arm for the next game. It's not like you're trying to save his arm for the next 20 years.
Yeah.
Everything is done here on a daily basis to win. The starting lineup is put together with only one goal in mind: to win. It's not to develop. The other 8 guys aren't there to make sure that the top prospect shortstop is going to get to the major leagues. They're actually all trying to they're trying to play so they can get in the starting lineup and stay in the starting lineup and keep somebody else on the bench. They're pulling for themselves, and if everybody pulls for themselves and plays as best they can, then the entire team benefits, of course.
Absolutely. Well, let's play a little rapid fire then, Chuck. I know. Are you ready for this? Is your mind clear?
I got 2 cups of coffee. Let's see where we go with it.
Let's do it. Hot dogs or brats?
Oh, brats, 100% brats.
Okay, strong start. Superman or Batman?
Batman.
What's the strangest thing you've ever seen at a ballpark?
Oh, my, wow. Just this year alone is in the Atlantic League, I've seen a lot of strange things. That's a tough one because I've been in it for so long. On the field or off the field, or what do you? I know it's not rapid fire right now.
No, anything. Somebody.
You know what? I'll tell you. One thing that always comes to mind is a promotion we did in Reading years ago. We had Tiny Tim, and Tiny Tim. This is my favorite story to tell. And I know this isn't rapid fire, but
Take your time, please.
Tiny Tim came in and we had him sing between games on a 4th of July doubleheader, and he had a whole medley of songs. I told him he had 15 minutes. He had his ukulele out, and he sang and sang. But what he didn't tell us was that he closed his eyes when he sang. So he closed his eyes shut and just went from memory, from song to song. And he had about a half hour worth of songs in his memory bank. And both teams were out. The pitchers were warm. They're ready to go. And we can't get him to stop because his eyes are closed. And we don't want to embarrass him, but finally we had to go out and yell, because Tiptoe Through the Tulips was going to be his last song. And when we signaled one song left, he was supposed to go with that. So finally someone had to go right up in his ear in front of 5,000 people and yell, "Tiptoe Through the Tulips." So that he did. So, but the funnier part of that story is, Jim, after that, he went to a table and he signed autographs for 2 or 3 hours during the second game, nonstop, never left the table, was drinking 32-ounce sodas throughout the whole signing. And at one point I realized this man hasn't gone to the bathroom yet. So I went up, I whispered in his ear, "Tiny, you need a bathroom break." And he whispered in my ear, "Don't worry about it, Mr. Chuck. I'm wearing Depends." You weren't ready for that one, were you?
I was not ready for that one. I'm like, which rapid fire question are we on? That's amazing. Wearing Depends. All right. Godfather 1 or 2?
Oh, Godfather 1.
Okay. Oh, good. Yes. If you could own one team, not your favorite team, what team would that be? Any sport.
What's the question?
If you could own any team, not your favorite one, what would it be?
That's a tough one. I would have to say, well, when you say not my favorite team Major League is Pittsburgh Pirates.
Yes, you can't own the Pirates. But
I wouldn't want to own the Pirates. I would, if I had that kind of money, I wouldn't be on the Pirates, unfortunately. I'm partial to the Reading Phillies, the Reading Fighting Phils.
Okay.
That's the team I would want to own.
What a great ballpark too. It's a beautiful ballpark.
Yeah.
All right. Star Wars or Jaws?
Jaws.
What would you pick for your last meal on Earth?
A hot sausage sandwich with peppers and onions.
And would you eat that? Would you have a last meal with Michael Scott from The Office or Leslie Knope from Parks and Rec?
Michael Scott.
Okay. Can you think of real quick, not real quick, but what was the first time baseball ever broke your heart?
Oh, well, when Roberto Clemente died, that was, because I was just getting into baseball, and I saw Clemente in his last 3 years, and Roberto Clemente is the reason why I'm sitting in this chair today. He's the reason why I got interested in baseball. And of course, I wasn't the only one who got his heart broke on that. Millions of people did. So that's the first heartbreak. The second heartbreak that stands out, again, going back to, I told you I was a Pirate fan, when Sid Bream slid in and took the Pirates out of the World Series in 1992 playoffs against the Braves. And I had tickets to go to the World Series. I was leaving the next day to go to Pittsburgh, and I was just stuck on the couch for hours after that. Watched every replay, hoping that the next replay would show something different. And
I remember that.
Yeah. I mean, as far as watching a baseball game goes, that was the biggest heartbreak as a Pirate fan, and that's the closest we've been for 30 years.
Yeah, mine was Game 6 of the 1986 NLCS, Astros versus Mets. Just crushing. All right, last question then. If not baseball, what other sport would you work in?
Probably football. Probably football would be my second choice. Yeah.
All right. Well, Chuck, thanks so much for jumping on Let's Get To, and best of luck on the playoff stretch for the Dirty Birds, hopefully making the Atlantic League playoffs.
Thank you, Jim. Nice talking to you.
Raiders of the Lost Diamond, a look into baseball's past.
And so we are back here on Raiders of the Lost Diamond, and we are going to take a deep dive into baseball in West Virginia. When John Denver's saying, "Take me home country roads to West Virginia," he might have been talking about hitting up a baseball game. Since West Virginia was formed during the Civil War era, baseball has been part of its culture. Starting in 1866, he saw teams springing up all around railroad towns, much as you did across the nation. The first professional team in West Virginia, the Wheeling Standards, took the field for the first time in 1877. With the rise of organized Major League Baseball, their minor league system soon followed. Teams included the Wheeling Stogies, the Fairmont Kohlers, with other teams soon following, including the Huntington Blue Sox, who won a Virginia Valley League pennant in 1914. Charleston, now home to the Dirty Birds, also had the Charleston Charlies, the Charleston Wheelers, and the West Virginia Power. While the Charleston Dirty Birds and the West Virginia Black Bears carry the banner for baseball in the Mountain State now, one must remember the days of the Beckley Bengals, the Bluefield Blue Jays, the Grafton Wanderers, the Huntington Rail Kings, the Mannington Drillers, the Ohio Valley Redcoats, the Parkersburg Parkers, the River City Rumblers, and the Welch Miners. Taking me home country roads is one thing, as long as you're also taking me out to a ball game.
And now, on to close it out, the right-hander from Houston, Texas, James Christopher.
So that does wrap up this episode of Let's Get To. Thanks so much to the Charleston Dirty Birds for coming on, telling the story of the brand, and I really do think it's going to grow, and I think it's going to end up being part of that community, just like we've seen with so many brands before. So this is actually going to be our last episode for a bit. We're going to take next week off for a couple reasons. One, we are hard at work at what I think is going to be a blast of a Halloween episode. We're out at Bowling Green for their Halloween night, and we're building the episode around that, including a fun segment as we partner up with our movie show, Screen Jocks. And speaking of movies, next week we're going to be attending the San Angelo Revolution Film Festival. For those of you who maybe don't know, my main career is independent film, and one of the things I do is put on and host film festivals. And this will be the first year in person for San Angelo. We're going to be screening our Christmas movie, A Chance of Snow, which I'll be putting online for free coming up this Christmas. But we're excited. We're excited to get out there and have an in-person film festival again. We're excited to see friends we haven't seen now in a couple of years. So it's going to be a good time. But don't worry, like I said, we'll be back right before Halloween. It's going to be a blast. So until then, I hope that your baseball playoffs are going the way you want them to. I hope that you're at least enjoying the games. Make sure you stay caught up on everything on this show. And until next time, let's get to.